What if it was possible to make an exact duplicate of yourself? I mean exact. Molecule for molecule, quark for quark, or whatever we want to use as the smallest particle. Well, there's several ways we could go about it. And there's a YouTube video put together by a fellow who calls himself Sentience Physics. You really should do yourself a favor and look at this video. It's remarkable in that it's so efficient. It's only 3.5 minutes long and it really gets the point across. The video is called The Mind-Body Problem, 3 Thought Experiments. The last thought experiment is the one of interest. He creates a duplicate being by bringing particles in from the left-hand side of the screen and replacing them in a host being. It could be you, and the particles are taken and placed in a second being, creating a duplicate right next to the first. Now here's the interesting question. Would this new being be alive? I guess there's a couple possibilities. This being could be dead. I mean, if he requires some kind of a spirit or a soul, he may not have that spirit and that soul. It may remain with you, the host being, and not exist in the duplicate. Or he could be fully conscious. He could function. I mean, he's got your exact structure, your exact brain. He could have your memories. He could believe he's you. But there's another possibility. He could be something that the philosophers call a zombie. Now, this isn't the Hollywood zombie that goes around eating human flesh. This is a philosophical thought experiment tool. And this kind of a zombie is an exact duplicate of you, except he's missing something. He doesn't experience the inner feelings, what it's like to be you. He's not getting sensations out of things. He's not experiencing the taste of salt or the smell of flowers. He's reacting just like you, but his outward behavior is just like your behavior. And he's particle for particle just like you, but he's not having a conscious experience. This is what they call the philosophical zombie. Well, this zombie turns out to be a philosophical argument that's just wonderful. It's an argument against physicalism. At least that was its original intent. The argument is remarkable because it brings to light so many different things, even though ultimately it probably fails to do what it was supposed to do, which is be an argument against physicalism. Also, I have to mention that this is what we're doing here is sort of like an armchair philosopher's view of the whole thing. There are professionals who have written wonderful papers, and they go into great detail, scholarly papers. Eventually, we should investigate them, but nobody really wants to jump into that stuff right away. Even if you talk to the philosophers who've been doing this for decades, I think if they're real honest, they'll admit that way back when, sometime, they had some armchair thought experiment like this that really got them interested in the whole thing. So anyway, this argument is wonderful because it illuminates so many of the problems in the philosophy of mind. The hard problem of consciousness, as David Chalmers calls it. How the physical and phenomenal are related. This is always going to be a problem until we resolve this, if we ever do. How you test for consciousness. That's brought to light as you argue some of these things. It gets into the other minds problem. How do you know that somebody is conscious? You're only aware of your own consciousness. We presume that everybody else, other beings just like us, are conscious. But how do we know that for sure? If zombies are possible, it may prove that we don't know that for sure. But this zombie argument also does something else wonderful. I've seen a lot of this argued back and forth in papers between professionals and even on forums between amateurs. And it forces people to take a position. You can't hide when you're arguing the zombie problem. You have to come out and reveal yourself as either a dualist or a physicalist. You reveal yourself as having a religious bias if you do, if you have a belief in a soul. And once you start talking about the problem in its details, you have to get into what it means to be logically possible. The argument includes a piece like that. And there's long philosophical discussions that are very revealing about what it means to be logically possible or possible at all, what that means. Anyway, the history of this thing goes way back But I think the first time it really came to light formally was in a paper by Saul Kripke in 1972. Then this zombie problem really took off. A young philosopher from Australia named David Chalmers wrote a book in 1996 called The Conscious Mind. I had the book. It was wonderful. And there he lays out the zombie argument in a formal way, and it's a little different than Kripke's. Okay, here's the argument as put forth by David Chalmers in his book. I've rearranged it a little bit to make it easier to understand, but let's look at it in detail, because sometimes when I see it presented, it seems a little confused. Number one, mental states are all identified with physical states. Now, this is the physicalist claim, that mental states are one and the same with physical states. So, number one, if we're a physicalist, we accept that. Number two, zombies are conceivable. Now, they can be logically conceivable or metaphysically conceivable. A lot of the criticism aimed at the zombie argument comes down to this statement, and there's very deep discussions sometimes going on about what it means to be logically conceivable. But for this argument, that's all that's required. It doesn't mean that the zombie has to be realizable in the physical world. It simply has to be logically conceivable. Well, if we accept arguments 1 and 2, that would mean 3, that physicalism must be false. That's because we have two physically identical beings, you and your zombie, and yet you're having totally different mental experiences. One of you is conscious, you, and your zombie is not. This would mean that there has to be something more to mental activity than just the cognitive physical processes that are going on in the brain. Well, this argument is explosive. You've got to see all the stuff that's been written on this, thousands of paper, and it brings a lot of stuff to light. Let's dive into this a little bit in future videos.